Hello there, everybody, and a Merry Christmas to you. I should have some sleigh bells. I should have sleigh bells playing, or I should have something. I mean, I've got a concession, a couple of concessions for Christmas, because I've got Christmas Yoda behind me, and I've got my Christmas T-shirt on. But no, it's our last one, certainly before Christmas, 2020. It's possibly going to be our last show of the year as well. I will explain that as we go into the rest of the episode. But we've got ourselves a couple of people who are joining us already. Hello there, Michael P. Good morning from sunny but cold Colorado Springs. Yeah, it's not great. Sing a Christmas carol. Okay, if you let's see what I can do. I mean, let me bring some words. I'll sing Christmas carols. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. No, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. But no, listen. Thank you so much, Dee, for coming along. Hello, all from London. Hello, Andrew. Welcome along, sir. We're going to do. It's two parts to this week's show. We're going to have a special guest, which is going to be talking to us about a new way of getting comics out into people. But then we're also going to be kind of doing a little bit of a review of 2020, and certainly what we've been up to here on the show. We'll do a recap of the full year. If we do our show next week, I will explain as we get into the actual show. Jim Brown stopped singing. Hey, listen, this is the reason why nobody likes me doing karaoke. So I get it. But there we go. This is now time for you to kind of spread the word. We'll give you the time, the duration of the opening credits for you to spread the word and let everyone know that we are live with Talkin Con, a cup of tea with Englishman in San Diego. So let's do this. Hello there, everybody. Welcome along to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name's Leonard Sultana, and each and every Sunday we talk comics, Comic-Cons, and all the stuff and nonsense we get to enjoy at the shows when we get to go to them, when things are not shut down and when global pandemic is not completely and utterly causing chaos across the globe. Welcome along to this, our final show of 2020, or at least before Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. I've got my my Star Wars, yeah, there we go, my Star Wars Christmas T-shirt on. Hopefully you are in some kind of festive spirit at this point. I know that here in the UK things are or have been getting dire. I know that we've got a couple of people who are joining us from London. Hello there, Andrew English, who's down south. I know that we're in the tier 4 down there. We're not going to dwell on that too much, but it has not been the greatest of it hasn't been the greatest of years. But we have got highlights. We've got things we can be thankful for. Hopefully you are surrounded by your family at this time. I know you may not be surrounded by your friends, but hopefully you have family close You have friends who are online. For a lot of us, we have gathered our friends by going to comic conventions, by having a global friends community, which is basically what we like to celebrate here on this particular show. That's what fandom does. It brings people together, and hopefully over the course of the year you have had moments where you have been able to come together, even if it is online and virtually. And hopefully this week of all weeks, hopefully you'll be able to FaceTime, Zoom, call, whatever it takes for you to see the faces of the friends and family that you love. But for myself, I want to wish you all the very best for Christmas 2020. This is going to be a two-parter. The first half, we're going to be talking to our special guest, our last one of the year. And then we're going to do a little bit of a recap of the year, especially of Talkin Con, because I think it's safe to say this year has been something particularly special, especially when it comes to the guests that we've had on. So we're going to look back at that. We may do a little bit of a look back at some of the highlights generally of the year, but I'm desperately hoping that we'll be able to do an episode next week. More about that in the second half of the show. Let's talk to our special guest first, because I don't want to keep him waiting. It's this Sunday. We don't want to take him away too much from his weekend. We have ourselves Christopher Carter, who's joining us. Hello there, Christopher. How the devil are you, sir?
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me on board. How are you today?
I'm surviving. We'll stick with my stock answer, which is I'm surviving. We're going to do our 3 questions, which I have been asking, which gives me a chance to introduce you to our audience. And the 3 questions are, number 1, I have my cup of tea to hand. It is PG Tips today, because that's the brand which was handy, and that's what I've gone for. So what is your beverage of choice? What is your cup of tea for today?
Today I'm having coffee.
Fair enough. That does seem to be the general consensus when it comes to our American guests. Tea, it's a strange alien concept, but slowly but surely, even hopefully with this show, we'll do our best to.
I do enjoy a good cup of tea, though, actually, but it's usually in the evening, non-caffeinated style.
Fair enough. Question number 2: can you remember your first Comic-Con? And do you remember going as a pro or as a fan?
It's kind of embarrassing to answer this, because my first Comic-Con was s08e22 of this year, and it was also the last Comic-Con that went live.
Yeah, I think it was the last. I think it was the last Comic-Con for a lot of people this year, to be honest. So yes, was this a show that you were launching GlobalComix at, or were you still kind of putting things together at that point?
GlobalComix had gone live, launched-ish, relaunched January this year when I was able to start working full-time. But s08e22 was the first place where myself and the team went, and we actually, had a lot of in-person conversations with people. Talked with a lot of creators and kind of got their perspective and got their thoughts and showed off, what we had. And that's what kind of started the big road of 2020 for us.
Excellent stuff. The question I'd been asking then, I don't know how that's going to quite work for yourself. For question number 3, it's to meet your idols and those people that have inspired you over the course of your career at a comic convention. Can you remember who you met at s08e22 and who it was that you kind of caught your attention?
I mean, I think the most interesting surprise conversation I had was with the gentleman, the CEO over at SourcePoint Press.
Right.
And the reason for why that was such a surprise conversation was because instead of talking about comics, we ended up talking about how we both used to be hardcore World of Warcraft players back in 2004, 2005. And we were reminiscing about our gamer days, basically.
Fair enough. I mean, it's got to be said, those are the best conversations. I mean, I started asking that question over the course of the year, and to be fair, a lot of the creators that I spoke to did, because I asked the question, how do you kind of break that kind of barrier, especially if it's someone who has been idolizing your work for a while, and sometimes they can be a little bit, there's this guarded wall. How do you kind of break down that conversation where you can kind of talk about things other than comics and actually have a real conversation? And every single one of the creators that I've had on have turned around and said, oh no, we like talking about comics until the cows come home. We're fine about talking about comics. We're all good about that. But no, that breaking down of that kind of barrier. I mean, I've had some good conversations about gaming, about concerts that we've been to. So no, I totally get that, where you kind of have a real conversation. So that's rather cool. The questions that I ask basically are to just kind of warm things up, but I think it's best then to kind of introduce yourself to our audience, because not many people may know about GlobalComix, and certainly may not know about yourself. Let's have a little bit of a background. Chris Carter, tell us about yourself, sir.
Sure. So I'm actually a Norwegian person, and I'm living now in New York. I've been all over the place, and that's kind of where the background for GlobalComix comes into play. I grew up with Donald Duck and the Disney's, you know, Mickey Mouse, all that kind of stuff. DuckTales was amazing. I loved the, I think it was Gizmo Duck or whatever his name was, the robot style thing. And then, you know, as I grew up and I was able to start reading more longer form, I got introduced to Asterix and Tintin and Spirou and like all of these French and Belgian comics. And then I think it was, you know, around when I was 16 where I got introduced to Spawn, and that was my first, you know, official American style comic. My friends and I were blown away by Spawn. That was amazing. And then, you know, throughout my 20s, my career took me to different places. I lived in Germany, I lived in France, had a stint over in San Francisco, etc. And I found that, you know, the comics that I used to read when I was a kid and when I was growing up, they weren't available everywhere. And especially when I was living in Germany and France, like there's no way of getting anything English in a store. And so, you know, that was kind of the start of the inspiration. And at some point I got introduced to Japanese manga online. This was in the mid-aughts, I'd say. And, you know, even with Japanese manga, things were not available locally in any way, shape, or form. It wasn't available digitally, and it wasn't available locally. And so there were these communities of fan translators that would take the Japanese version and like translate it and re-upload it and make it available for folks. And I was totally fascinated by how the community could get together and actually help solve one of the biggest logistical problems in the supply chain of international comics. And that was the second piece of inspiration. Back in, I think it was 2009 or so, I was invited over to have a conversation with Shueisha over in Tokyo for bringing, you know, seeing how we could work with these international crews to potentially bring their comics online, bring their manga internationalized. And it turned out that that was still too early from a timing perspective. The gig economy hadn't really taken off. Facebook and Twitter weren't as big as they are now. Social media hadn't proven itself as a viable business model, etc. And so they weren't interested. And I figured, okay, well, maybe it's a little bit too early. 5 years later, you know, everything was big on the internet, and the gig economy did in fact exist. And we had platforms like YouTube and Twitch that were, you know, actually showing that people could make money online. So I figured it was time to dust off the old idea and taught myself to code, and here we are, you know, 5 years later, and a lot of lines of code and sweat in the evenings, I guess.
I was going to say, from what I can see of the site, and I'm going to bring the site up in a minute. It's there's a lot of stuff going on in the back end, and certainly when it comes to the kind of the distribution model that you've got going. How long did it actually take you to put together GlobalComix?
We had our beta version after about 3.5 years of development. And then I wanted to do something and make it a full-time gig in early 2018, but I ran out of savings. And so I needed to take a job somewhere else. And so I spent 18 months, rebuilding my savings and trying to rebuild, or rather extend my network, connections, potential investors, etc. And at the end of 2019, it was actually my CEO at the company that I was working at, a gentleman named Robert Hoffer, who decided, I'll support you. I'll be your first angel investor, and I'll put in some of my own money. So then GlobalComix became a full-time gig for me in December of 2019, and I've been working at it ever since. That's really kind of, 4 years, I'd say, to get to that point. And now we have our first year of early growth.
I mean, the thing that strikes me about the site is, I mean, it's down to, I think, when it comes to any platform like this, and when you are trying to get an attention, and when you're trying to really kind of reach as many eyeballs as you can, it's about the content. It's about the variety, the breadth, and the depth of the content that you are providing on the site. And that's down to the creators in this regard, because from what I can tell, it's a submission process. It's something where the creators are using the platform to reach a global audience. How did you kind of curate that first initial tentpole collection of books to put out there? Because I think that must be a real challenge, to actually go up to somebody and say, we're brand new, we are effectively unproven, this is what we want to do, this is this is how we want to affect your reach and also do our business. How do you actually just kind of get to the books that you have on the site?
It's a chicken and egg problem, isn't it? Like with all these platforms, you need the content to get the eyeballs, and then you need the eyeballs to get the content.
Yeah.
Well, so here was my trick. This is what I started with doing. I went out and I found an online forum community for comic creators. It was a place called Comic Book Hour. It's no longer active as a website, unfortunately, but it was run by a gentleman in the UK. And on this community, there were, I think a little bit over 1,000 different creators, and they were talking about everything from things like print challenges to character development to all these types of things. And I introduced myself to the community, and I introduced myself to the admin, and I told them, like, all right, so I'm not a creator, I'm not able to draw, I can't really write very well, but what I do is I build tools for people like you. And I've spent an inordinate amount of time trying to put together this comics platform. Would you be interested in being my beta testers, coming onto the platform, telling me what you like, what you don't like, so that I can take that and take that feedback back into account, and then make changes to the platform based on what you actually want and what you need. And I think it was about 30 people from that community that said, yeah, okay, I'll give it a shot. And the feedback that they gave was phenomenal, both in the fact that once they saw what was there, they really liked the way that it was laid out, and they liked what the tools were, but they also had really great insights and suggestions for, well, wouldn't it be great if I had this, or if I had this other thing? And an example would be, scheduled publishing, so that they could set something up ahead of time and it would go live without them needing to be in front of the computer. But really, starting there, and then what you kind of need to do is you increase a little bit on both sides. So then you have some comics, and you can start sharing that out to people. And with that, you can go to some other creators and you can say, well, these people like it, would you also be interested in giving it a shot? And I don't think that we're out of that execution model yet, right? Like, it's still, I still really consider us in the early stages of starting our company up and starting our platform up. And even though there's quite a bit of content there now, we still need to, you know, get in front of people and show them, hey, we have this really cool thing. A lot of other people certainly really do like what we've made. Would you give it a shot? You know, but it's a little bit more guided around. We know now for sure what the problems that creators have in the digital space are, and so we can start a conversation with saying, we know that you have these problems. Would you like to see how we're approaching solving?
Certainly the books that I've seen, I mean, there are a couple of familiar faces on there, a couple of names that I know, which are great. It definitely seems like you are reaching out to the creators rather than the publishers. Say, for example, you do have a couple of books on there from iOS Studios, for example, AWA. Although I mean, I've seen also. There's books like there's Christian Carnouche on there, and you seem very much geared towards the creator, the independent comic creator. Mm-hmm. Is that something that was important to you, or do you feel that a big splashy publisher would be something that you would be likely to go for later on down the line, or would you like to stick with the independents?
I mean, I think that we welcome everyone. You know, if there's a big splashy publisher that's looking at this interview and says, hey, we'd like to give you a try, I certainly welcome that. But I think, you know, the focus on creators is around this mentality of what we're actually trying to achieve. And that is, we want to create a platform for comic creatives, whether it's smaller publishers, bigger publishers, or independent creators, to actually be successful in the same way that streamers have Twitch and that video creators. And, you know, when we have conversations with creators, one of the things that they say is that, well, it's so easy for my stuff to get lost under the armies of the top 2 or 3. And we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And so then we're starting with, how do we make sure that the creators are being properly served? And then we can layer in more publisher content alongside that without it taking over, right? Like, which is why we've really spent a lot of time figuring out the discovery process and filtering and being able to say, well, you know, I want to see something that's about space and time travel in the 1500s, as an example, right? Like, we have filters for that.
Okay. Also, I think when it comes to the digital platform, it's finding that hook. It's that thing that makes you stand out from the rest of the attempts at getting digital comics, because it's something which even the top 2, but Marvel and DC, sorry. And all the other platforms have tried to do. It's something that digital still is something that needs something special for it to really kind of to work. And some people have gone for audiovisual translations of books. Some have gone for animations and kind of turning them into motion comics. What would you say is the hook for yourself and for GlobalComix as a digital platform?
Convenience.
Yeah.
Convenience, 100% of the time. Think about music. Before Spotify, people would use iTunes and they'd go and selectively download a whole bunch of MP3s and sync to their iPods, and they'd go through all of this dance to keep everything in sync. Certainly, the pirate side of things, you know, folks would go and find the torrents of like a whole shitload of MP3s and sync all of that, and there's a lot of work. And then platforms like Spotify came out, and now suddenly you have access to all of these songs whenever you want without having to pre-download and premeditate everything. and it grew exponentially because of it. I think, you know, like from a digital perspective, what you really need to do is two things. It's availability, making the things that you want available to you wherever you are, whenever you are, whatever device you're on, super easily. And then the other part is the reading experience. And like you say, you know, like some people have gone with motion and splash and audio, and I think that's great. I think, you know, there are people that would appeal to, but what that really doesn't take into consideration is how much extra work it is to create that piece of content in the first place, right? Like these are creators that are already spending the majority of their free time making the books. And then to suddenly ask them, okay, we'll spend another, you know, 2 weeks to make it work with this animated sound thing. It's a cool idea. I just don't see that most creators have a time budget to do something like that. So for us, you know, we have what we call the interactive mode, which is a very simple tool for creators to be able to overlay and indicate on a page where are the given panels, which lets the readers have an interactive panel-to-panel reading experience. And so when you're on your small device, you're holding it in your hand like this, all you need to do is swipe and it will focus and zoom you from panel to panel to panel. That what you're looking at right there is the legacy reading experience. So this is for a creator that hasn't set up the interactive panels. But what we did try to do was make it more app-like, as it were. And then, you know, when readers are sitting on their phone, they're sitting in their couch or in their bed or whatever, pinch and zoom and pinch and zoom and pinch and zoom and pinch and zoom is annoying. Let me just like consume the thing and enjoy and sit back. Those are really our focus and goals.
Excellent. The year has been trying for a number of reasons, but for the comics industry, and certainly when pandemic first started to make its effects known back in March and April, certainly on this show, we were really concerned about the comics industry. And to be fair, the only ones that really have struggled throughout the course of the pandemic has been the local comic book shops. For the publishers, as it were, they've had the content. The content's almost been backlogged. So it's a case of they've not wanted to release it too much so they don't overwhelm the market as people's finances get a little bit strained. But from what we've been reading and hearing, the market has done incredibly well. Sales have been strong. People have been desperate for content in these trying times. And this isn't just comics. We're finding this across all streaming platforms. The numbers are up. It is an ideal position then, or an ideal time, and I'm not trying to say that glibly, when for a platform like GlobalComix to come, because it's a way to get content to people when they are really in serious need of it. What has been 2020 for yourself? Obviously, with the platform launching in January, you obviously had goals. You had a rolling plan throughout the course of the year. How has that changed in 2020?
I think that the biggest change that we had, I think the most unfortunate change that we had was that we weren't able to have as much face-to-face time in person with creators and publishers. That's ultimately the best kind of environment for both us and them, right? Like we're a new player in the market and most people haven't heard of us. And so actually being able to have proper in-person time where you can get to know each other and get a better understanding of, you know, not just the product, but who are the people, what are they trying to do? You know, I wish that we would have had much more of that. The fact that the pandemic has caused people to look or reevaluate digital a little bit more, I think has obviously played to our favor in that they'd be more receptive to an introduction to someone like us over the internet, over email, social channels, whatever it is. But if I were to summarize 2020, I think we made the best of what we could with creating relationships with creators and with publishers and with folks in the industry. And I think we've done a pretty good job at putting our mission and goals and values out there in a way that resonates with folks. And that's what I want us to continue to do as we go into 2021. We're not trying to just be another digital bookstore. We're trying to be a destination for creators and readers and folks all over the globe to actually come together and enjoy the digital aspect, enjoy the content, enjoy the stories. And caveat, I realize that there are some people that really like print. I do too, for certain stories that I have space for at home. I'm not trying to replace that for you. Like, I think that print always will have a space in the industry, and it always will have a special place in many people's hearts. What I want to do is open those stories up to a lot more people.
Okay. I think the best way then to do that is to have a very affordable and agreeable price to pay. So let's talk about let's go green. Let's talk about the actual the financials of it all, and how much it would cost for people and what they actually get for their money.
So I think about 4 weeks ago now, we launched our unlimited subscription service. It's $7.99, and it's a all-you-can-read buffet. And so it's, from a reader perspective, you pay your $8 and you have access to everything in our inventory and then everything in our library. The unique thing about our subscription is that we don't just sum all of the subscriptions into a huge pot and then divvy that up. We actually take each individual person's subscription and we only divvy it up between the owners of content that they've read, which means that, like, if you're a smaller creator, if you're an indie creator, or if you are, a big publisher, you can know that the impact of driving people to your content on GlobalComix directly benefits you.
Okay. And I mean, I don't want to go into too much in regards to the creators, sort of like deals, because that's obviously between yourself and the creator. But they obviously want to know that they are being financially recompensed for the work that they've done. What's the contract in terms of ownership? And also exclusivity, because like I say, the books that I've seen on the actual the platform, like I say, they're familiar titles on there to myself. Certainly like Red Border. There was Pixie Dust, which I just spotted, like I say, a good friend of ours that likes to come on every once in a while. What is the agreement and arrangement with creators in terms of putting the books out on your platform, on GlobalComix, but also being able to distribute elsewhere?
It's entirely transparent, actually. There's no secret sauce in contracts that's going on behind the scenes. If you wanted to look into the details later, you can head down to the bottom of in the footer of the website. There's a publisher SLA link there, and it'll outline all of the terms. The summary is that creators retain all of their rights. We are a distribution vehicle in the same way that Twitter is a communications vehicle. Creators can choose to put a paywall up. They can choose to put it up for free. They can choose to remove their content at any time. And it's entirely up to them. We don't take any rights away in any way, shape, or form. There's no requirement for exclusivity. And I think the only thing that we kind of carve out for ourselves is that we're allowed to make use of the comics in our own promotional and marketing material. So, you know, if you put your content up on GlobalComix, we can say, hey, we have this title, here's, you know, the cover page or whatever, and use that in our advertising or use that in our marketing.
Is an exclusive GlobalComix title something that perhaps you would like to have down the line? A little bit like the old the Hulus and the Netflix of the world, that killer app, that killer show, that killer title, which is only available on GlobalComix.
Sure. I mean, I think that the ones that benefit the most from that early on is us, and the ones that benefit the most from that in the midterm is the actual creators, because you know, it's kind of like you say, you have this one story that's the hook that brings a lot of people in, and then by virtue of that, it brings readers into the platform, and then other creators get discovered through that, because once you have a subscription, you're not going to just read the one thing, you're going to actually, like, you know, check out what else is there. And you know, like, I think that doing exclusive for us is a matter of figuring out what the best terms are for everyone, so that we're in a good place and creators are in a good place, and that it doesn't restrict creators from other opportunities elsewhere, right? Like, so the worst thing we could possibly do is put like a right of first refusal type situation where a publisher wants to pick them up and the creator's like, oh, well, I can't because. So, you know, like, I think there's a couple more conversations that we need to have with creatives. But fortunately, we have an amazing comic book lawyer, Gamal Hennessy, on our team. So when we're ready to put out that kind of contract, I'm pretty confident that it will be something that it's appreciated by all of the creators that are part of it.
Fair enough. While that is the conversation from the creator standpoint, that exclusive deal, there is also the benefit for the reader as well. So if you'd like to talk to us about Superfan, and this particular the ability to access comics early, and it's something that I think this is really a cool idea, the ability to kind of allow the creators to choose the way that their books are getting out to people, and how they can kind of generate interest using the Superfan platform.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that we found very quickly was that there's a spectrum of how creators want to run themselves as a business or run their comics as a business. Not everyone wants to put a paywall up. Some creators are more like, well, I'll use this to build myself a following, build myself, you know, a dedicated fan base. Some people then go onto places like Patreon. And some people will have things like merchandise stores, T-shirts, you know, pens, cup holders, these kinds of things. Superfan really was something that came out of this understanding that, all right, well, if creators want to find a way to build their dedicated fan following, and have an opportunity to still make some money without paywalling everything perpetually, kind of like what Patreon offers to creators as a third-party service off platform. You know, Superfan came to mind because we already have their content here. Why not just make it something that's naturally integrated and into their publishing workflow?
Because I'm showing some screen caps up on the screen at the moment of what people can expect as superfans, and also we're seeing some of the tools that you've got up for creators as well. I suppose for any creators that are watching, and we do have a fair number that tune in, it is about how easy it is for them to just get their books up onto your platform. What is the kind of screening process? What's the kind of curation timetable, or how books are selected, and how easy is it for them to manage what they're doing on the site?
It takes about the same amount of time to set up a publishing page in GlobalComix as it takes to set up a publishing profile on Instagram or Twitter. As a creator, you go to the site, you create your user account, you create a publishing page in the same way you'd create a page on Facebook for your business, and then you create your comic titles, and you take your PDFs and you drag them into the comic management uploader. Everything else is automatic. You can be up and running within 5 minutes, literally, fully published with everything. We don't actually have a pre-screening process in terms of folks coming on and publishing. We do have our own curation process in choosing what do we promote, because we do a lot of promotion both on-site and off-site. We go to places like Reddit, and we have our email blasts, and we have a lot of partners. Like we partnered recently with Graphic Policy, who go and do a weekly recap. And then the 3 Million Miles outlet also has started doing some of this. And so really what we look for is quality content. And what that means is great story and consistent art. It doesn't have to be the most detailed art in order for it to be great art. It just needs to be consistent, and it needs to stay true to what the creator is actually trying to communicate. And when we find those stories, like what we want to be able to do is put them in front of people and have people go, oh, wow, this was cool. I'd never heard of it. And that's kind of what we look for when we do our curation, right? Like, there's so many people that get not enough visibility because they might be like way out there. An example would be a creator on our platform called Pierre Dola, who's got some of the most wacky art I've ever seen. But there are people that absolutely love it. So, everyone's welcome, but we try to pick, things that will resonate with.
I mean, I think the reason why I was asking about curation and the kind of, well, you say the screening process, as it were. At the end of the day, there are a number of comics out there which may not be suitable for anybody, frankly. It's a case of how your sensibilities are, and obviously I've seen the NSFW tag on a couple of the books which I spotted as we're going through. But yeah, just how at the end of the day, you want to try and police it for, say, a younger reader, or maybe there's some unagreeable politics or worldviews that are in some comics. I'm just curious about how you are filtering those through, and what's your kind of...
Yeah, so in our content policy, we try to be very fair. The biggest don'ts, right? Like, don't do this, absolutely don't. Don't post porn. Like, it's okay to have some nudity. If the context of that nudity is not, oh, let's have a porn scene that's super, genitalia and whatever.
Yeah.
Don't post hate speech. Don't make comics that is about denigrating living beings or humans. Don't make a comic about being cruel to animals. Don't make a comic about hating on particular race or culture or whatever. And then as it comes to graphic violence and these types of things, it's generally okay. But you need to flag it, right? Like, we have a lot of these settings for things like contains graphic violence, contains nudity, contains sexual content, contains use of drugs, all of these things. And so when we're ready to really make an experience that is catered towards the younger audience, then we'll make sure that those titles that have that content flagged don't show up for them. It's as simple as that, right? And certainly, you know, like there are stories out there that I don't think are good stories. I think, you know, in general, there could be some that are just real garbage, but
yeah,
it doesn't necessarily violate our content policy, right? And like our job isn't necessarily to censor people. Our job is to provide an equal opportunity platform while still living in the realm of let's be decent people about this, you know?
That makes sense. And we talk then about promoting, which I think for a digital platform, it is a case. It's a two-pronged thing. It's hosting the actual content and then getting the eyeballs actually on there. So you're kind of meeting halfway, and that halfway is the screen, as it were. What is your techniques, or what is your platforms for promoting and getting people to know about not only GlobalComix but also about the books that are on the platform? Do you have YouTube stuff going up? Do you have somebody talking to camera and talking about the books that are on screen? I don't know. What do you have?
We haven't started too much in the video space. What we do have on YouTube, we do have a YouTube channel, but it's mostly geared towards creators. We're going to do a broader push on the reader side of things in 21. But here's what we're actually doing right now. For a while, we were experimenting with Facebook advertisement, but we boycotted Facebook back in July, and we have not re-enabled payments there. Like I really don't want to give more money to that particular service. But we're running, you know, experiments with Google advertisements, quite a lot. And I think right now we have 10 different advertisement campaigns that we're experimenting with different targeting. And some of that is on the generic side of here's a comic platform, and some of it is retargeting for folks based on specific types of content that they may have seen on the platform. On a weekly basis, we curate 2 lists of 5 featured comics. And those features go into our homepage. It goes into the featured section on our Browse Comics. It goes into our blog, and we have external places. So one of the things that we've done a lot of experimentation with is psychographic analysis of stories, and then matching that up with communities online, Facebook groups or subreddits, where people might be interested in that particular type of story more so than some, you know, generic comic communities. An example would be something that's super dark and dystopian. We'll find, you know, if we come across a comic like that, we'll go to places like Black Mirror on Reddit and say, hey, this isn't Black Mirror, but since you like Black Mirror, you might be really interested in the story. And it's really that kind of marketing that we're looking to scale up, because we're not just looking at, you know, finding all of the existing comic readers. We're looking at bringing these stories to people that don't necessarily already read comics. You know, we want to grow this pie and get more people interested in the medium and the stories and the format, more so than staying into it.
Okay. I think, I mean, I've been kind of scrolling through as we've been kind of discussing and talking and looking through the ways that people can read the comics. I'm not seeing a mobile app. That's something that usually when a digital comics platform comes out, a mobile app is usually on the cards. But here it looks like everything is being geared towards reading through a browser. Is a mobile app on the way, or what's
mobile app is a 2021 project.
Okay.
It definitely.
Well, you see, that was the next question. What's coming in 2021? so there you go. So there's the mobile app. What else is for next year?
For next year, a lot more content. I mean, so GlobalComix has gone extremely broad with the tools and with the features that we have, both on the reader side and on the creator side. And I think, you know, what we're looking at doing more so than just adding new features is to take the things that we have and level them up, bring more polish to the experience. And then we'll combine that with a native mobile reading application. The reason why we didn't go with a mobile app first is because we wanted to make sure that the web experience is as good as it possibly can get, so that the way creators can bring people into their story isn't by, hey, go download this app. It's by, hey, start reading, click this link, right? And so a mobile application for us is an extension to what we already have. It's not the de facto experience.
It makes sense. I'm also liking like I say, you've really gone into the metrics of the books, and it really does give you a chance as well to kind of, certainly the creators, they can upload as much as they possibly can to give as much information to the reader as possible, which I think is obviously the best that you can ask for. I'm personally blown away with just how it's very slick it is. The actual, like when we brought up pages of the books, the artwork looks incredible, and the way that the presentation comes forward. How has GlobalComix, as certainly the online experience, how is it matched up to what you originally had planned for the platform when you had it first in mind?
Wow, I don't actually know how to answer that properly, because I don't know what expectations I had. As far as like features and tooling goes, it's about a 95% match with what we set out with. The nuances that we've tweaked have been mostly that nuances based on feedback, or like we've added extensions to something that was already there based on suggestions and recommendations. I think, you know, the reason why it's such a high match is because we didn't just stay in a vacuum and build. We had a lot of conversations with people ahead of time, and we asked, what are the problems you have? What is your experience with digital publishing been? What are the things you don't like? What are the things that you wish that you had? What do you think about these things? Insert list of suggestions that they may not know that they wanted in the first place. And then marrying all of that together into a prioritized roadmap is how GlobalComix came to be. I think it's incredibly important, if you're building anything in software, that you don't divorce yourself from conversations with the people that are going to be using your platform in the first place. That's a recipe for disaster. Sure.
We've got somebody who is a good friend of the podcast, but he's also somebody who has got a title up on GlobalComix as is. Mark Abnett's joining us. I've given them a punt with one of my standalone stories, Schism. Mark, you're going to have to follow up with that, sir. Let us know how the platform has been for you. How you've felt, how, you know, as a creator, how you've felt supported, and how the actual the platform has helped you. Clydeen Nee, who, if you don't know, Christopher, is somebody you definitely need to introduce yourself to at San Diego Comic-Con if you get the chance, or when we can all go back to San Diego again. Clydeen is the person that looks after Artist Alley at San Diego Comic-Con, saying, I think there's a way to do that by adding text content that can be picked up by the readers, so it can read a page to someone, even if it's just reading the dialogue balloons to the reader. Clydeen is very much somebody who is an advocate for accessibility, certainly for people who perhaps have difficulty reading on smaller devices. So that's where her approach is. But thank you very much indeed to your comments. What are your additions, or what you're thinking of for those people that say difficult for reading? I mean, you're talking about pinching and zooming, and you're not wanting to get into that too much. What's your tools, or what's your thinking of what GlobalComix can do to allow ease of reading for those with accessibility issues?
Oh, so I stumbled across this solution accidentally. See, I was looking at ways of solving the problem of how can we make it easier to translate comics, bringing it from one language to the other.
Ah, yes.
And so what I was looking at, basically optical character recognition, OCR, for extracting the text directly from the images. And I was looking at various different services, and through the Google Vision API, I was testing on my local development environment. I was getting up to a 99% accuracy text extraction. And what that essentially means is not only do I have the text and I can put it into a format that is easily translatable, I also have the location in the image for every single character. And I can pipe that into accessibility. Like in web standards, there's these little tags that you can put in your HTML structure so that accessibility readers can actually read all of the text that comes out. It's not actually very hard to do at all because I was, I stumbled across this text extraction.
Fair enough. Well, but it's one of those happy accidents. It's one of those where you were looking for. I'm trying to work out what the equation is. The one where someone discovers penicillin by discovering going in that direction. So you found a solution. So that's really cool. Anything else for 2021 that you feel that you would like to see coming from the site? Certainly, when you say that you would like to get out to more conventions and introduce yourself more to more creators, are more labels, more publishers, people that you would like to speak to? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to going to a comic convention, it's very difficult to kind of sort through that many creators at once. So is a publisher perhaps the first people you would like to talk to? I mean, what would you like to see in that regard?
I think it's both. The way that the way that we think about it is we think about it from two lenses. There's the stories perspective, which very often publishers will be better known, and then it's the creators perspective. And so at least when we were at Chicago Comic Con, we split up and we had one person speaking with publishers and we had two people speaking with creators. What would I like to see in 2021? I'd like to see success stories for creators or publishers, for that matter, across all different verticals. I'd like to see 5 to 10 success stories in the manga space. I'd like to see 5 to 10 indie creators success stories. So if we're having this conversation in a year from now, I'd like to point to 10 indie creators who said, you know what, this worked really well for me. I made a decent amount of money. I'm going to continue doing this. And certainly, like from a reader's perspective, I want to be able to offer both the Korean style webcomics content alongside the Western style comics content, alongside the types of comics that is in such wide variety that when readers come there, they can always say, well, there's a lot of there that's not for me, but there certainly is a lot there that is for me also, and I'm enjoying it. And so, you know, it means that we need to have a very diverse portfolio of comics when we bring it in. And so we can't just pigeonhole ourselves into, well, if we get, you know, 5 publishers, that's going to solve everyone's problem. I mean, sure, it's great. It's going to bring readers in, but it's not going to solve everyone's problem, right? And so we have to be so cognizant on that particular aspect, so that we're staying true to our mission, right? Like, how can we be the Twitch and the YouTube for comic creators, more so than an iTunes store?
Well, I mean, you say that. There's certainly one thing that you're building on. It's still to find its footing, but something that I'm really excited to see is the community, because I mean, there's one thing that we've learned tenfold this year in 2020. Community is absolute key to the building of a network around a brand or a business or whatever. It's all about the fandom. It's all about the family that is brought up. You're starting things on the actual site. You've got yourself a forum, you've got yourself a blog, and also a creators space as well. How much time and space are you going to be putting on this particular aspect of GlobalComix? Because I think this can be a really exciting space to discover new titles, discover new creators. What's happening with this particular area of the site?
I think, you know, that's, if we think about GlobalComix as an ecosystem, it only works if all parts of that ecosystem is working smoothly together. And so having a community that's active and that's vibrant, creators that are supporting each other, readers that are making recommendations to each other, creators interacting with their fans and with their readers. All of this is really the grease of the engine that makes GlobalComix work. It's what differentiates us in the first place from a place like Comixology, which is entirely a comic store. It's not really a comic community.
Exactly, yeah.
And so, you know, like, how much of our focus is going to be on that? I'd say about, you know, 70% is around building the ecosystem itself. Some parts of that is the blog, and some part of it is forums, and some part of it is comments and discussions on the comic chapters themselves. Some part of that is, you know, readers and creators following each other.
I'm seeing you've also got Discord as well.
Which is a big part. Sorry.
You've got Discord as well, I notice.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Discord is great. It's, in lieu of being able to get in front of people in conventions, it's a great way to actually be humans and have great chats together, while also, you know, getting feedback and thoughts on new ideas that we might have.
Excellent stuff. I mean, like I say, I mean, it's great to see this this platform here as well, where you are getting to get really deep into the background, and you're following and you're developing a real relationship with the creators, and there's a way for people to actually discover more about the individual books. And I think it's a really strong way for it to go, because that's basically where I wanted to touch on this, because I think this is something, like you say, Comixology isn't doing it. I don't think I can't think of any other platform which is giving that kind of space to discussion. So I think it's really strong. Right, so we'll kind of wrap up with just the final introduction. Oh, well, first things first, we've got Mark Abnett who's jumping in. We did ask for his follow-up the conversation. He's saying it's still very early days. The platform is very intuitive. It was directed to the community platform by admin Eric Tapper as soon as the book was uploaded. So yeah, there's definitely the support system there, which is fantastic. We'll kind of wrap things up then with just the like I say, the all-important how much it is, which is $7.99 for a 1-month subscription. Are you just sticking with the 1 month model, or how are you going to be continuing to price it?
I mean, I think ultimately the atomic unit for a subscription is a month. We're not going to go below that. Like, it doesn't make sense to do a weekly subscription.
Sure.
We might offer, you know, a discount on purchasing 6 months or a year or whatever. Certainly. But like, I don't think that there's much that we need to do in terms of our pricing model there. I think the thing that you're more likely to see sooner rather than later is that we'll continue to run first month discount promotions. So maybe it's $3.99 for your first month, or maybe it's $1.99, or maybe, you know, like we'll have fun with this given specific timings. I might mention that this holiday season might have something like that.
Fair enough. I was wondering if there was going to be a Christmas deal, some description. So that'd be rather good. Yeah. Okay. So
if you load up GlobalComix after midnight tonight, Eastern time, you will see the deal active.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There you go. So you've heard it from here. So GlobalComix, we're going to put the URL up on screen so people can see this, because I think people need to go and check this site out. GlobalComix.com. It's been a pleasure talking to you and finding out more about the platform. Is there anything else that you would like to just kind of wrap up on? Anything that you would like to, anything that we've missed from talking about the site?
I mean, it's so hard to cover everything, you know, that's on GlobalComix. I think that the only thing that we haven't talked about is that unlike any other platform, we actually have a discovery mechanism for folks that are doing crowdfunding. So if you're running Kickstarters or Indiegogos or GoFundMes, etc., you really want to be using GlobalComix, because it offers 3 things. It offers the ability for readers here to find your comics based on its being actively crowdfunded. It gives you an opportunity to directly embed into your campaign a great reading experience, regardless of, you know, whatever device people might be on. And more importantly, we have tools for you to reward your backers. We have digital promo codes that you can generate on your own and manage and give out to your backers there. So I think, you know, that's the latest and greatest thing that we're proud to show off. If I wanted to like wrap everything up, the only thing I can say is we are so thankful and so grateful for the creators that are coming on board and that are supporting us and providing us with feedback and thoughts. Sometimes it's harsh, and most often, like, you shouldn't shy away from giving harsh critique if it's something that you feel passionate about. So thank you to everyone that's been part of that for 2020, and we look forward to more of it in 21.
Excellent stuff. Well, yes, I think if there's one thing that we have learnt, certainly through social media and whatever, when it comes to saying harsh things and keeping it real, a comic creator will always do that for you. So yeah, it's always handy to have that kind of feedback. So there we go. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I wish GlobalComix all the success, and I'll certainly be following along with what you get up to in 2021. Certainly when it comes to future developments, when it comes to the apps, when it comes to the reading experience. I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes out of GlobalComix next year. Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure, sir. Thank you so much indeed for coming on and for being our last guest of 2020.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's been really fun, and I hope that we get the opportunity to have more of these conversations next year. I hope so.
I hope so too. And a Merry Christmas to you as well.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Excellent stuff. Thank you so much indeed, and we'll see you soon. Excellent. So there you go. GlobalComix.com. The URL's there on the screen. Do go check out the site. Like I say, we've had the screen caps and the site up on most of the podcasts, and you definitely see the variety and the breadth and depth, the content that's on there. And I'm really liking, like I say, the 2 things that are appealing to me. Number one, the support system for creators. and also that community. Like I say, we don't see that on Comixology. We don't see it on any other platform. It really does allow the interaction between fans and the creators right there. I think that's a really cool way for developing of that relationship between the reader and the creator. And that's what they're doing at GlobalComix. Fantastic stuff. Okay. Not much else to say apart from we do want to spend at least 5-10 minutes talking about what's happened in 2020 here on the podcast, on the show, and also what's going to be coming down the line later on in next year, considering that we are wanting to keep doing this. We're wanting to keep doing Talkin Con. However, situations have changed. My situation was, as a mobile DJ, I had time on my hands. Quite frankly, it's one of the best jobs in the world because it allows me to do what I do and then have plenty of time throughout the day to talk to people online, to talk with people outside of strange time zones and time frames, because I'm coming in from a gig at some interesting hour in the morning, and I'm getting the chance to talk about comics and Comic-Cons. However, with this, with the way that the year has gone, I haven't been able to earn any money, which means I've had to change professions. I'm now working in a warehouse for Marks and Spencer's, which is my new job, and it's very time consuming, and it's also something which is going to mess with my ability to do, say, for example, this show. So I am going to do my utmost to do Talkin Con on a Sunday. I'm going to talk to my line managers. I'm going to talk to my bosses, and hopefully we're going to be able to keep doing the show. It's going to be in the next couple of weeks where I am going to announce what the plans are for 2021. And the reason why I wanted to kind of bring this up purely is because we have had an incredible year this year. It's this time last year, I was actually wondering whether to actually continue doing Talkin Con. We were seeing a lot of guests cancelling last minute. We were seeing it was very difficult to get people to come on and talk to me. At which point, and another thing I don't want to say, I don't want to make this sound glib. Then the global pandemic came along, and it actually made life easier for the podcast because the creators and people in the industry were at home doing nothing. They were free and available, and they came along and talked to me. It started pretty quickly and just built and built and built to the point where we have had, quite frankly, guests who at the beginning of the year, if you'd have told me that I'd have been speaking to over the course of the summer, I would not have believed you. Scott Snyder, Heather Antos, Al Ewing, James Tiernan, Derek Robertson, Elsa Chatirier, just the names, Bill Zinkevich, the names just kept coming, and it's allowed us to keep doing what we're doing or have been doing up to now. And the conversations that we've had have built on the previous conversations. So when I had chats with the likes of with the guys from White Noise, that kind of built in the interest from their friends, and I think the only reason why I was able to get the likes of John McCrae on, it was purely because I had been speaking to Cullen Bunn previously. So they all just kind of built and built and built. Yeah, indeed. Dan Berry saying you're welcome for some of them. Absolutely. Dan has been right. I'm going to say this in public now, and I'm going to say this as best I can, because the Convention Collective is was an evolution of the an Englishman in San Diego website. And the idea was that because the brand had become so synonymous with San Diego Comic-Con, I wanted to make an Englishman in San Diego, a site which would allow me to cover more pop culture stuff and allow me a space within the umbrella of the Convention Collective. So I could do my little an Englishman in San Diego thing, do this, but also have a bigger site where we could talk about other conventions and other pop culture things. I turned around at the very beginning of it and turned around and said, Dan, would you like your own sandbox? Because he's got several places out there on the internet where he posts pop culture news. I wanted to give him a space to do that. And what he's done with Sandbox, if you go to theconventioncollective.com/sandbox, what he has done and the people that he's got on board to write for him has been absolutely incredible. And it is at this point the linchpin of what the Convention Collective is. I've been dropping back because I haven't been able to write anything because I've had no time. I've been either working or sleeping. It really is a case of work, sleeping, or this. What Dan has done has been absolutely incredible. And if anything, it is Dan's site more than mine right now, which I have no problem with. If he wanted to launch a legal claim to that site, I think he'd have every legal standpoint foot to stand on, because what he's done with it has just been an amazing thing. So Dan, thank you so much indeed, and just keep doing what you're doing. I don't know how I can possibly repay you, but I've got to find out. I've got to find a way somehow. I've got to find a way to say thank you. So, I mean, we've got Mark Abnett, who's kind of summing up what I'm wanting to say. You've given us incredible content, and we've been very fortunate to have you share this with us. But you look after you and yours, and things will settle. We'll be here for you. The last thing I want the Talkin Con shows to be is pre-recorded. There are a number of, I mean, there's a podcast that I have discovered more and more this year, which is now actually become for me the kind of the baseline, the tent pole. And if you get the chance to watch it, do. This is John Suntras. He came on as part of it was the State of the Union episode, where I was kind of talking out some ideas and talking about my own interview technique and just figuring things out and doing it by speaking out loud. John came on and we had this really great conversation about podcasting, about relationships with comic creators. If you get the chance to watch Word Balloon on YouTube or whichever platform he puts it out on, do it, because he is absolutely phenomenal. But what he also does is pre-record shows. He also records shows that he's done on, for example, virtual conventions, which he's hosted on, and then posts them up on his site. The last thing I ever wanted Talkin Con to be is pre-recorded. I wanted this to be a live space. We have got some amazing people watching right now. We've got Michael P, who's joining us. Sleep. How dare you? You can sleep when you're dead. Until then, Comic-Con forever. Absolutely. Toby Tolentino, sorry, who's well done on the show, Leonard. I just want to take this opportunity to say hi to Toby, who's not going through a great time at the moment. Certainly, Kristen, his partner, is not in a great place right now. She is being directly affected by COVID. I wish Kristen, I wish Toby all the love and best wishes in the world, and I really hope that Kristen gets better soon. So that's from all of us to you, all the love in the world. Michael P, dear friend, this year has been phenomenal for your show. It has. It's just been mind-blowing, frankly. Donny Cates, Megan Hutchinson, I can't have any. I haven't got the list for last year, for God's sake. I mean, I could just, I could do this. I could just pull up YouTube. I could go to my channel, and I could just go to the videos, and let's just go through it, just because it just blows my absolute gourd. If we just go through from, and not only that, but the best thing about this show, I haven't had a duff conversation yet. I haven't had one where I've just walked away from it and gone, I haven't quite nailed that. Every single one has just been phenomenal. The Ditya Bidikars episode was just incredible. We had people watching that who had no idea about some of the complexities and the art and the craft of lettering. That was a joy to do, a joy to do. The fact that I got Scotty Young, one of my personal heroes, to come on. The Rob Salkowitz episode was a brilliant breakdown of where we are in 2020 and what we can expect from 2021. It was just such a phenomenal conversation. The Department of Truth episode, where we got to talk with James Tin and Aditya, and also announce Martin Simmons, his wife's delivery of his child on the show. What the hell? It was incredible. Elsa Chatirier, another person who I absolutely adore. Scott Snyder. Just these names. And then we get into the last season. Todd Stashwick, Paul Jenkins. I mean, the names, I'm just blown away just looking at this. Shelley Bond, Michael DeLesso. And I think it started around Rachel Smith, Gil Cabrera, that episode with Paul Jenkins, Jimmy Palmiotti, and Dave Johnson, which turned into this kind of chaos, which was fantastic. It was just great to watch, great to be part of. And a lot of these as well, I do actually watch back purely because I kind of zone out when I take part in these things. I'm deep in the conversation, so I kind of forget about what I've actually said. So I've actually gone back to a couple of them just to rewatch them. It's very surreal to kind of watch yourself talking to some of your heroes. That Bill guy was an okay guest. Bill Sienkiewicz, considering he came on and I thought I was going to get maybe 45 minutes, 2 hours, what was it, 2.5? 2 hours in? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Your success for the show is your ability to ad-lib and talk on, for the most part, on the fly. It's when I'm too tired. It's when I start breaking, by the way. It's when I start, losing my mind. But there we go. But the last thing I ever want this show to be is pre-recorded. And that's where it's going to be difficult. Because this new job, it's 5 days a week. The shifts are 6 o'clock in the morning till 2, and then 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 10. The weekends don't mean a thing, so the days can be any point. They can be Sundays. And I know for a fact that next Sunday I am working. I do have Saturday off, and I am going to be spending this week talking to as many people. I mean, we've got Aaron Neighbours, who's watching, very good friend. This year of Talkin Con has been full of excellent stuff. It has. Thank you very much indeed for picking up on that. I need to stop saying excellent stuff, by the way. Yeah, my go-to starting sentence. I need to kind of wrap that up. But I want to try and get as many people. I'd like to get basically everybody who's on the comments right now. I'd like to come on Saturday and have a little bit of a chat and talk about the year, because this bit now we're talking about the recap of the show and what we could be expecting for next year. I'd like to actually do a breakdown of 2020 because it's affected us so much, so hard. So I'd like to talk that out, but it's when. And then over the next couple of weeks, I need to talk about how I can do the show. I don't want to do pre-records, but I suspect for some Sundays it's the only way that we can have a regular show. I want to keep it regular. Want to keep it on the Sunday. I want to keep it at the same time so you know where we are. But it's then a case of how I can logistically do this. It's now coming up to 7:30 here in the UK. In 5 minutes' time, I'm going to be turning this off and I'm going to go to bed because I've got to be up at 4:30 to go to work. Things have changed. It's a different ball game. And it's happened within the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, if that, 4 weeks. So it's now a case of seeing what we can do with this. I don't want to let you guys down, not after what we've achieved together over the last 8, 9, 10 months. I want to get that sorted. So bear with me. It's going to take me a week or so, but I will get this sorted. I want to continue getting the guests on. I want to get guests that you want to see me get on. I mean, Chris Carter was actually brought to me by a promoter that's done great guns for me this year. Brought me Stephanie Phillips, brought me some amazing talent that has been great to talk to. Marcy Bretts, we'll find you wherever and whenever you are. Thanks for a bright spot in all the darkness. Thank you. That's all I've ever wanted. My Twitter, my online persona, this show, Talkin Con, and whenever you see me at a convention. That's all I ever want it to be. Just bear with me. That's all I can ask. I will find a solution for this, even if it is a case of talking to my bosses and just saying, can I just have Sunday evenings off, please? They'll see what they say. We'll see what they say. They can quite easily turn around and say, no, these are the shifts. You do them or we don't employ you. We'll see what happens. I thought it was going to be a Christmas gig. However, I do have dates contracted until the end of February. So it looks like I am now, this is my new job. Some things that have come out of it. Number one, I'm thinner. I'm getting one hell of a workout. Number two, I've got a muscle there. Where the hell did that come from? Number three, my knuckles are killing me. Number four, my feet and my back are in agony, but they're getting better. If anything, next time you see me at Comic-Con, I'm going to be a lot thinner, which can never be a bad thing. But there we go. I'm going to get off because, like I said, I've got to go to sleep. But also, I've got to try and work out what I'm going to do with this show. The reason why, I mean, s08e22, another great friend, and it's been a pleasure to get to know her better. Let us down, what nonsense you speak. I was okay. At the end of the day, certainly the Patreon supporters, I don't want to let down. You are people who are giving me money. It's admittedly, we've got the Flickr hosting coming out next week. We've got the website hosting coming out 2 weeks from that. You know what I mean? It's a case of I don't want to just keep asking you for the Patreon money and then not do a show. I want to keep doing this. This is absolutely the highlight of my week. Doing this. I bloody love doing it. So let's see what happens. Toby, that's what happens when you do hard labor. Yeah, but at least I don't have a ball and chain attached to me, and I'm not hitting I'm not digging holes in the road for a living. You know what I mean? But there we go. All the best, mate. I'm sure you can work it out. Maybe a new time slot that fits in with work. The only downside to that, thank you very much indeed for watching, Shane. The only downside to that is there is no regularity whatsoever to the hours. It is 1 week early, 1 week off. I mean, so I could do this technically twice a month, but I don't like the sound of that. We've done so well on a weekly show, and we've done this year so well as a weekly thing. And I quite frankly, if I didn't do this on a weekly basis, I would not be a happy bunny. So there we go. I'm going to have to sort something out. Right. I think we'll finish up with this, which kind of sums up my thoughts. Thanks for the show and for all you do, Leonard. Happy holidays and stay safe. Let's finish on that. I want to wish you and yours all the very, very best for Christmas. We are 5 days away from a bit of a blowout, which we all desperately need. I've got the alcohol in. I've got a very nice bottle of Jack Daniels, which is a slightly more premier blend, which I've got in. At least one day this week, I will be having a drink and a half. I will be raising my glass to you, to your families, to your friends, to the community, the family that we have brought together. That's what we do when we go to conventions. That's what we do as a fandom. We create family. We choose our family, and we choose it through shows like what I do on a Sunday. To 2021. But let's just get this year out of the way, shall we? Let's just kick this son of a bitch into touch, because it deserves to be well gone. Take care, and I will see you at some point in the future. I am hoping that next Saturday, perhaps, we'll get all our friends and family together. I'm going to message everybody who's in the chat right now and just go, do you want to come on? And let's just have a chat about highlights. Let's talk about The Mandalorian. Let's talk about Department of Truth. What other highlights have I had this year? Stuff that I've really enjoyed. Some really great Kickstarters. Some really great Kickstarters which I've enjoyed. Yeah, Kickstarter, how that's kind of grown as a community. Like these presents that come through your door like 5 months down the line. I've got this great Charlie Adler book. It's over there, which I got on Kickstarter. That was amazing. Yeah, there's been stuff to celebrate this year. There have been high points. There have been things to put a smile on our faces. Let's remember those. And let's have more of them in 2021. Take care. We'll see you soon. And hopefully we'll speak to you next week. We'll have more of an idea for a plan for Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego for 2021. From me to you. Love you. Stay safe. Wear your masks. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.